As a psychologist, it is very common for a person to come into the therapy chair and think that they're struggling with anxiety or depression. I will do a clinical assessment and try and understand who they are, what made them the person that they are, that they're sitting across from me and they're mentally and emotionally struggling. When we do an assessment and we understand their history of where you may have come from, what happened to you, what brought you to the place you are, a lot of the time, 95% of the time, I will identify some traumatic experiences that they have gone through. Quite often, they won't label those experiences as trauma, because from their understanding, trauma has to be World War III. It has to be something very big and black and white. Like, yep, this is traumatic, this isn't. When we use the term trauma, I use it in a way that anything that is overwhelming to your body or your nervous system, it has caused your body to go into a survival response. So it has overwhelmed or it has distressed your mind and your body, meaning I cannot process what has just happened to me. And quite often, the brain is amazing. It is so beautiful. It will disconnect or dissociate that memory. It will compartmentalize it and put it somewhere else in your brain. And 5, 10, 20 years later, that memory can start to come to the surface, or you will find that you get triggered from it. Meaning emotionally, I might get flashbacks of fear and anxiety. I don't even know why I'm having these flashbacks, but my body remembers. This is where we get the saying, the body keeps the score, because the body holds on to this emotional, this autobiographical memory of what happened to you when you experienced that traumatic event, even if in your mind you don't realize it. So when we talk about trauma, it is anything that has overwhelmed your nervous system and your body. And quite often, your brain in that moment cannot process what has happened. You might not even remember it properly. It might be foggy. It might be memories that you don't really have at all. That is very often for me to hear as the psychologist with a client. I don't remember my childhood. Can't really remember from 0 to 16 years old. Then after that, I sort of remember. This is very normal to hear, because when you're going through something traumatic, your brain will disconnect. It'll dissociate. Dissociation is a very common trauma symptom. And the body has beautiful mechanisms to help protect us. And this is why sometimes you might, if you work, you'll go to your 9 to 5 job, you have this chameleon mask that you wear. So in your 9 to 5, you're this competent professional person. You get home from work and you might just crash. You'll freeze, you might self-soothe, you might binge eat, drink, you might numb yourself out, Netflix, TikTok. You might have a part of you that when someone disrespects you, when someone triggers you, you go into a rage. You get really angry easily. You might have a part that just checks out. It dissociates, disconnects. And this is what we call, comes from a theory called structural dissociation. And I believe this theory was introduced by Janina Fisher. I might be wrong on that, don't quote me. But structural dissociation can help us have a lens to understand trauma. So there's 3 layers with structural dissociation. The first layer is primary structural dissociation. And this is if I've experienced one traumatic event, I will have a traumatized part and I will have a healthy part. And that's where we get PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So one apparently normal part, and then one traumatized part. The second layer is secondary structural dissociation. And this is where complex trauma comes in, or borderline personality disorder. And this is where I have a healthy part, and then I have multiple traumatized parts. And that's where I might have that competent part, that self-soothing part, the approval-seeking part, that part of me that likes to dissociate and disconnect from the world. In tertiary structural dissociation, I have dissociative identity disorder. And this is where a person will have different alters, the different personalities, different people in their system, meaning that in their system, they might have a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, could have different genders, different handwritings, and they completely take over and dissociate. Now, when we're talking about dissociation, something to be aware of is every single person dissociates to different degrees. I dissociate, the doctor you go see, the person at the shop. Dissociation is a survival mechanism that you are born with from birth, and it is on a continuum. So if we imagine a line here, at the very start of the continuum, an example could be you're driving along on the highway, you forget where you're going, you're driving, your mind goes somewhere else. And this is like highway hypnosis. Coming into the middle of the spectrum of dissociation, you have complex trauma, BPD, and then nearing the end is that dissociative identity disorder. When we talk about healing from trauma, because I get a lot of questions around, how do I heal from trauma? And healing comes back to the body and the nervous system. And it depends on if it's a once-off trauma, if someone has experienced, for example, a car accident, and they came into my clinic and they're sitting across from me, I would potentially do EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing. This is a trauma processing therapy. It is amazing, and I will do a whole other video on EMDR. I would be doing a trauma processing therapy to help reduce their symptoms and to remove the emotional content that is around what they've experienced. We want a somatic-based therapy. Talk therapy for trauma does not cut it. It is helpful, but it does not cut it, because trauma causes emotional experiences, emotional pain. It causes your body, it causes your nervous system to go into a survival response. There are 5 survival responses. So we've got the fight response, and let's imagine an animal in the Sahara Desert, and there's a lion and a deer. When the lion is there and it's attacking, the deer will, for example, I'm going to give you the 5 responses for what the deer would do. The deer can fight the lion, and that's the fight response. The deer can flee from the lion, and that's your flight response. The deer can fawn, which is walk up to the lion and say, "Hey lion, please don't hurt me. What can I do for you? I'll do anything." And that's that approval-seeking response, where when someone gets angry at you, you try to appease them. You try to make things better. That is a survival response. So we've got fight, flight, fawn, and then there's freeze, which you just freeze in the middle. The deer's stuck, frozen, staring at the lion. That is your freeze response. The 5th one is collapse, and this might be the deer sees the lion and it completely collapses. It's flop response. So when you experience something traumatic, when your nervous system is overwhelmed, it will go into one of those 5 survival responses. So if you go to therapy, you're sitting across from your psychologist, your brain cannot talk. It cannot talk your way out of a survival response. We need to regulate nervous system regulation. We need to regulate your body, bring safety, connection, calmness in order to come out of a survival response. After that, I can start talking. So if you don't feel safe with someone, if your body, because our bodies read people. In neuroscience, there's something called mirror neurons, and we co-regulate with another person. And this is what can help us with our healing journey. And your body intuitively will know if it feels safe with someone. When you feel safe with someone, it can help bring your body into a felt sense of safety. And this is where healing, this is where I can receive and understand information. This is where my mind and my body will allow me to go back to historical content in the past and process memories. This is where, when I don't remember my childhood, I might start to remember memories from my childhood. They might come to the surface because my body is starting to feel safer. As my capacity increases, as my window of tolerance increases, as I can start to sit with distressing emotions, then I can start to heal. And that's not only can I start to heal, but I can start to receive new information. When I'm living in a fight-flight response, when I'm living in anxiety, I cannot learn new information because my mind is constantly hypervigilant. It's constantly looking for, is someone going to harm me? Am I going to get hurt? Do I need to be walking on eggshells because the environment is not safe? I'm worried that people are perceiving me a certain way. When I'm anxious, it's really hard for me to learn new information. It's really hard for me to connect with others. And I might struggle with memory and decision making because I'm constantly anxious. I'm constantly on the alert, which is why it's so important. I always preach safety, 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 safety. I cannot scream it. I cannot say it loud enough. The nervous system, the healing balm of the nervous system is safety. If I feel safe, then I can start to do trauma processing. I will never jump into trauma processing therapies until my client starts to feel safe in the room with me, until their nervous system and their body says, yes, let's do this. I'm ready to go there. Some clients are happy to do the trauma processing in session 3. Some take session 30 to start trauma processing. And it all depends on your body, your nervous system, your history, and your experiences. And we never want to rush trauma processing.